My first question is, what are you curious about? And I think I got close to 50, 55 inputs from all of you. And there are some very interesting ones. I see a lot of people want to know about artificial intelligence. Somebody has written even about astronomy. Somebody is very curious about stock market. Robotics is very common amongst all of you. Now, why I asked this question, I'm sure आप लोग सब संपत जी से मिले होंगे. कुछ साल पहले I was very curious about knowing Sanskrit, and then we started online cohort around understanding Sanskrit. तो वो जो 8 लेक्चर्स में हमने समझा उसमें से एक चीज़ मुझे घर कर गई, और वो एक संस्कृत का श्लोक था, जिसका सार मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि लर्निंग होती क्या है, और आप यहाँ सब सीखने आए हैं. करेक्ट, यू ऑल हैव कम टू लर्न हेयर. आई होप एवरीवन इज ओके विद हिंदी. वेरी गुड. नो. Okay, perfect. So I'll try to keep the language which is easier for all of us. The youth icon Elon Musk is one of the most curious people that you can ever know. But my question to all of you is, what's with Elon Musk and post Cold War Russia? I'm asking because many of you wrote about geopolitics, technology. Yes, sir. Maybe. Fantastic. That's a good way to end it. But anyone else? Why do you think? What's the connect between Elon Musk? I hope everyone of. Yeah, he's a hero, right? He's the hero. He's the rock star. He's a youth icon. Huh? What else? Any guesses? Anything that you would have possibly read or heard or seen in one of the YouTube or Instagram shorts? No? Anyone? Give it a guess. Give it a try. What do you think? How many of you are computer science people here? Any of you? Many of you? Almost everyone. Okay. Okay. So I tell you very interestingly, Elon Musk is one of those curious people who read everything. So much so that after PayPal, when one of his friends asked, "What do you intend to do?" He said, "I'm thinking about something and possibly I would like to explore space." And he asked, "How will you do? You have no idea about space." So he said, "Okay, I'll read." But interestingly, at that point of time, he was not reading anything else but the history of Russia. He was so curious about what happened to USSR after when USSR was no more. And that's where he found that one of the biggest technologies across Russia was created around launch pads, launchers. And if you go back to the Cold War, how many of you remember there was a time when in fraction of seconds the whole world was about to end? It was the Cuba Missile Crisis. And both the glitches, because of one of the glitch in American missile system, showed the Russian screens that America has launched all the nukes to Russia. And that's how across the globe, if you will map them, I'm not carrying that map, but if you see, both Russia as well as America had launch pads and multiple nuke missiles across their territories to attack. And that's what he found after USSR. There are many smaller countries where you will find these launch pads, these satellite launchers. And that's how what was supposed to be $1 billion expense, he was able to make it in just a couple of million of dollars. So that's the connect. When you read, when you're curious, you come across, you connect the dots, you find something interesting. And that's why it's very important to read beyond what is your regular course. So if you are studying something, try to find something more. You may get your chance. Again, no introductions needed, but tell me what's the connect between both of them. Acha, anyway, let me ask, who are they both? Chalo, fantastic, good. So what's the connect between both of them? Guess कीजिए. अरे इतना तो सोशल साइंस और हिस्ट्री पढ़ाई जाती थी. Yes, both were. But there's a very interesting connect. It was the Karl Marx book that inspired Mahatma Gandhi when he was on the train in South Africa. And those were the ideas. But interestingly, who inspired Karl Marx is also very interesting. If you go back, it was the Vedantic principles that led him to this entire thought of socialism and promoting the culture of equality. Again, books do connect. This was interesting. I'm sure at your age, not many people would remember Matrix. Or how many of you seen Matrix as a movie? Oh, a couple of you. Surprising. What's so interesting about Matrix? Ardhanareshwar and the two directors there, the Chinese origin Americans. And this is actually fascinating. So both of them, Lana and Larry, they are considered the most remarkable directors in Hollywood. Most remarkable. They have been outliers throughout their life. And that's where they were so inspired by the Vedantic principles in Nareshwar that when they thought about something very futuristic, which is the neurotransmission, and they went back to the principles of Vedanta, they actually created this movie. And if you see, there are a lot of Sanskrit hymns whenever the transition is happening in this movie. Lot of shlokas are a part of it. But interestingly, how I came to know about it is again a fascinating story. Um, I'm sure at your age, but I still see there are people of my similar age. How many of you know Lisa Ray? That's what I said. People can relate to, but she was a supermodel. आफरीन आफरीन करके एक बड़ा अच्छा सॉन्ग आया था उस्ताद नुसरत अली फतेह साहब का. तो उसमें जो सुपर मॉडल थी दैट वाज लीजा रे. देन शी वाज अ कैंसर सर्वाइवर एंड देन शी रोट अ बुक, बट शी वाज द actress who was supposed to be taken into this movie to become one of the first Bollywood supermodels to be part of this movie. And when she was getting screened for this movie, she came to know about Lana and Larry. Now, I could only know about this fact because I was reading Lisa Ray's book out of my own kind of crush towards Lisa Ray, and also I was curious to know about what Lisa Ray is now doing. So that's what you come to know from subjects that you are just not related. I had a brief introduction. I shared the stage for a couple of hours, in fact, with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, and like my regular habit, I just asked, "What are you reading nowadays, sir?" To my utter surprise, this is the book that he took. This is the book he recommended because he said to my granddaughter Navya, a couple of years ago, she wanted to start some businesses. And she wanted advice from no one else, not even Nanda's, but from Amitabh Bachchan. This is the book. And so much so that when I met him in 2019, I guess, after 2, 3 days, he tweeted this book after reading this book. This book became the bestseller in the country and was just not available on even on Amazon. So this is what happens. You have perceptions. मैं ये सोचता था. I used to think that Amitabh Bachchan would only read about script writing or possibly the questions that he asks in KBC or something related to poetry or something. But he's a die-hard fan of finances and economy. So that's what happens. How many of you know him? Anyone interested in entrepreneurship? Couple of you. How many of you have ordered shoes from Amazon? Multiple shoes, yeah. I see some girls, दोनों हाथ खड़े कर देती हूँ. I to order a lot. But that's the gentleman who actually started the shoe e-commerce in the world. His name is Tony Shai. One of the most valued companies that he created that was taken over by Amazon, which is Zappos.com. But this is not something that is the end of the story for Tony Shai. What he created is a remarkable organization which was valued by Jeff Bezos as one of the most valued companies, not because of anything else, but the culture of the organization. Everyone, they had great reading forums. Everyone used to read in this organization. So much so that they had a practice of sharing something interesting every day as very fascinating. Somebody used to come and talk about astrology. Somebody used to come about flags. Somebody used to come about the history of money. And that's how a collective wisdom was created. And I'll come to this collective wisdom with this class in a while because this will possibly help you in your journey and how you can actually find something which is very boring, considered to be boring, because in some of the inputs that I got, I see somebody has actually written. It's one of the most boring things. Reading is just not my cup of tea, which I understand is with many of you. But next picture, how many of you know them? Tansen? Okay. Who said that? Fantastic. This is very rare because not many people actually can relate. Who? Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia. Fantastic. So that's the answer. But again, this is a great story. Despite going into any religious aspects of it, or the geopolitical or the political aspects of it, but if you realize they both were very good friends, their friendship was based upon books, reading, and understanding. If you see, there's a book always. So great friendships are created when people come across with the subjects of their interest. He needs no introduction, but what he's doing is very interesting at this point of time. He's reading Barack Obama. This is from the Prime Minister's house before he meeting him. This is the picture that was captured. Interestingly, he being the head of the country, he's the leader of the country. But there's something very fascinating that I know about him from three chief secretaries that served him in his Gujarat days. He had a very particular habit. He used to call them T12 based upon that tank, which is a very important tank. He used to call his one line down as his command as T12. And every monthly meeting was very interesting where he used to ask, पुजारी साहब आप बताइए आपने क्या पढ़ा पिछले महीने, आप क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? And because of this, he used to hear about 12 people reading 12 different books. And he has a small diary in which he notes everything. And that's why many at times when people say he doesn't need to see a script or so, he many at times is well versed, multiple subjects. This is what happens when you gather from your peer group and from the people who are curious. That's what happens. Now, why I'm telling you all these things, some interesting, fascinating things, because you have a journey now. अब आपके पास अगले कुछ साल हैं. How do you utilize them in the best possible way? You have many ways to do it. You can be on TikToks, Instagrams. That's a great thing. No harm doing it. You can actually roam around. You can go to Delhi, watch movies. You can participate in a lot of other activities. But what is the most important thing that you will do here is you will create a set of network which you will never gather anywhere else. Now, these are golden years, and how do you create that network will also depend upon how do you find common connects between your peer group or your colleagues. And the best way is to know about their interests, what are they curious about, and if you can talk about that, you become content rich and you do something interesting. Now, the reason why we all consume content, these are the only three things. That's what I can think of. If you think of something else, do let me know. But whatever you do, you watch a movie, you watch a Instagram reel, you read a comic book, you talk to someone else. These are the only things that you do, the three E's, which is educate, entertain, and enlighten. There's nothing else that can happen beyond this. So, time for some story. I'll tell you what actually inspired me. I believe either we are made up of atoms or we are made up of stories. So, I come from a very interesting background. I was good at maths, bad at chemistry. So, for me, engineering was just a choice. Everyone else in my family, I was ninth engineer in my family, seventh as a chemical engineer. So studied chemical engineering without no reason why am I reading, and I'm talking about almost 20 years now. So please don't get inspired by that at all. You have a lot of options now, you have a lot of choices. But chemical engineering was never my cup of tea, but only atoms that I understood. And then got into the regular corporate rut. And corporate life में क्या होता है? I was in banking. तो वहाँ ज़िंदगी हर साल every year used to be a struggle in a way that you had to make more money from the last year. That's the only parameter of success. That's what I was doing. It was good fun. I had a very interesting life. Corporate banking is always fun. You meet a lot of new people. Every year you make a lot of money and you enjoy your life. But this is one book that actually changed my life, which I actually read on 5th of June 2013. I specifically remember the date, 5th June 2013, because that was the World Environment Day. That's how we celebrate, right? That's one day everyone becomes an environmentalist, climate conscious. So I was trying to be a climate conscious person, but the reason was absolutely different. I was sitting outside the MD's cabin of Sidby, and as a corporate banker, my job was to get a green line so that we can have 3% less interest rate by showing that we support green entrepreneurship in the country. So I had to impress the person, right? Typically, that's what we all try to do. I had to impress the gentleman MD inside. That, sir, I'm very climate conscious, so I just picked up this book with no idea what it was. And I was wearing my tie suit boot on 5th of June in a scorching heat of Delhi. That's how typically the banking life should look like, or the successful life should look like. And this gentleman actually made me wait for 2 hours. I had to wait and I had no choice. That's what happens when you go and meet some very senior people. They can make you wait. I was sitting outside his cabin and nothing to do. And those were the days of Blackberries. So Blackberries, you never had Instagram Reels or Facebooks, right, to pass your time. So I had nothing else to do. 2 घंटे करूँगा क्या? So I just thought, let me just uh, flip some pages. And 2013, I'm talking about this story, but 2012, this is my daughter Mishti. She was born a year before she was born. And as a young father, I had to ask a question: what should I do now? What happens now? And I was trying to find answers. And when I was reading this book, this is a book written by Nancy Sleeth. Her husband, Matthew Sleeth, is the top oncologist of America. Oncology, I'm sure you would know, it's the study, it's the treatment of cancer. And it was one evening, Matthew came back home. He was very restless. He was not at all happy. And Nancy asked, Matthew, what happened? Why do you look so terrible today? So Matthew said, Nancy, in my everyday life, I come across many breast cancer patients, but today was very different. And now that's where I need some of your attention, because as leaders of tomorrow, you will have to come across some serious challenges in your life, maybe life changing for you. So Matthew said, Nancy, I met three breast cancer patients. They were all under 35. And I had to announce that these three will not live anymore. They don't have much time. Out of three, two were easy. He just mentioned they had family members, it happened. But the third one was very critical, because the third family had husband, a 7-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old daughter in the lap of the father. And the Matthew, this doctor, had to go outside his cabin and tell them, boss, this loving, beautiful, charming family is going to be disturbed, destroyed forever now, because the mother will not survive for more than a couple of months. So he was very, very nervous about it. So what he did, he just went out, उसने एक जादू की झप्पी दी. He just hugged the father, and without uttering a word, the news was out. The father started crying that the doctor is trying to console. That means everything is ruined. The daughters also started crying. Those two young children, they also started crying, and the news was out. So that was actually making Matthew so restless. So Nancy asked Matthew, what's the problem then? So Matthew said, see, मैं जब 20 साल पहले oncology की पढ़ाई करता था, when I was studying oncology, everyone used to say, this was around 1970s, oncology is not a great department, yeah, better be into orthopedics or dentistry, you will make more money. And that's how the American Western culture is. And oncology, the book used to say 1 out of 20. Matthew said, but the 10-year-old edition, 6-year-old edition says 1 out of 10. And the latest edition says 1 out of 6. Now, you all are engineers, I guess, or people who understand basic graphs. If you plot it, it's an elliptical growth. And if you take the present number, cancer is the fastest growing death in the world now, one of the fastest. And it's horrendous because it disturbs you throughout. And that's what is happening. So Nancy's next question was, so Matthew, what's the problem? Why is so that the cancer is getting so prominent? His answer was something that actually shook me for my life. And the answer was, we are eating up Earth. We are eating up Earth every minute, every second. We have become consumers. And that's where I could relate to my life. As soon as I read that first chapter, I could relate to my life. I'll tell you what my life was. Every year, we used to get bonuses as corporate professionals. And we were apes of West, basically. मैं गर्मी में टाई सूट बूट पहनता था, and I used to feel great about it. Wow, man, I've arrived in my life. I used to compare myself with my other batchmates. They can't wear a suit. I have a privileged life. I stay in 5 stars, 7 stars. Every year we used to get bonuses. And a very idiotic way of life as well, my habits. One of the habits was to collect items. And my pen, my watch, my shirt, my sweater, and my tie used to be same color. And I had almost 5 dozen of such sets. And those were costly, idiotic things. I was buying them for no reason. But that is actually consumption that is leading to what we are doing to the world now. And that changed my life. I thought about my daughter. By the time my daughter will grow up, how would the world look like? And I asked this question many at places. How many of you have one cancer patient in your 1 degree, 2 degree nearby family, friends? How many of you? The answer is here, boss. This is actually elliptical growth. This is happening with all of us now. We come across cases that are less than 20 years now, they're getting into cancer. Corona was an example. So I kept on thinking, what can I do when my daughter will grow up, and if I am on my deathbed, What would my daughter say? Will my daughter say, my father made a lot of money, he had some houses, he had cars? Is this what I would love to listen from my daughter? I'm sure your parents would be expecting the same. And that's how the lifestyle changed. I quit my corporate job the very next year. I got into renewable energy, did something, and that's where some of those failures that ma'am mentioned happened. But more failures, you get more joy and you get more courageous. But something I changed in my life that way is I started taking bath in just half a bucket water. That's the regular routine. Don't use any showers anymore. For me, this is decently cold. So I have been able to survive to a 47 degrees without AC now. That's my personal life choice. Third one is I was among the first users of electric cars in Delhi. But then, of course, now I don't use an electric car. I have a hybrid anyways. So the lifestyle changed. And that's where the idea came to me that if one book can change my life, why not actually look at changing and understanding how the books can change each and everyone's life? And in this pursuit, I went back to what Nalanda has done to the world, and that's where Rishihood comes into picture. You're a true epitome of what you want to bring back to the way we used to live in our ancient lives, and a great synonymous life with humanity. Created this venture, which is Friends of Books. The idea is to create a community which is simply based upon the simple principles of Shruti and Smriti. What we hear is Shruti, what we remember is Smriti. Um, of course, these are very important faces, everyone knows them, but we have been, I could have never imagined from what I used to do in my previous career, I could imagine connecting with them, meeting them almost every day. From large organizations, we have impacted large organizations. Some interesting conversations happening, but this is a regular thing. But what we actually try to do is ask questions and find answers as well. Now, my question to you is, how many of you know her? Who is she? I knew that, but that's a wrong answer. Anyways, when was Rani Lakshmi Bai present in history? What was those years? 1857. But my dear friends, young boys and girls, the future leaders of the world, this is around 1540, almost 300 years before Rani Lakshmi Bai came into the history. She is also a Rani, but she is Rani Obakka. How many of you come from Karnataka? Have you heard of Ulal, one of the districts? Do you know Rani Abakka of Ulal? You know about her? Ah, okay. Okay, how many of you know ISRO? Rockets, everyone. So let me take back to you the history of rockets in the country. Rani Abakka from Ulal during 1540s was the first Indian princess, or per se the Indian um, leader to beat any foreign army or invaders, Portuguese, 1540. And how she did it is remarkable. She was the last surviving person to know how to make an Agni Bana. What is Agni Bana? Agni Bana is a missile, right? Agni Bana, it's a combination of an iron cast with some sulfur and some ways to get the ignition into it, and so that it can blast when it reaches. That's Agni Bana, correct? As simple as that. Rani Abakka from Ulal knew this technology in way back in 1540s. So much so that the Portuguese, who were the ruthless of the ruthless, they wanted to capture. And if you relate geography, from Goa, they were actually trying to enter into this part of the world, which was Mysore, Ullal, and all these places. Rani Abakka did that. Fast forward a few more years from Rani Abakka, what happened? How many of you know Tipu Sultan? That's what the history has been. That's how it has been taught to us. The great Tipu Sultan. But it was Tipu Sultan's father, Hyder, who understood this technology because he was also there, bang at that place, Mysore, and that entire belt. And that he understood this technology, took it. And you know why Tipu Sultan was one of the most ferocious enemies to Britishers? Because of the rockets that he had created. Now, do you see a correlation how it came? Now, the story still doesn't end here. Do you know where the Tipu Sultan's photo is placed in the world? NASA. And you know who saw it? Abdul Kalam. And then you know what happened later on? He asked for an inquiry. How come Tipu Sultan in NASA? Indians don't know about it. Now, that's where I think you will have to be curious in your life. You have to connect these dots. And that's real learning. In whatever you will do, you will find some very fascinating things that you can actually tell to the world. And I will tell you what is my source. My source is this simple Hindi book, which is a 190 or 170 rupee Hindi book. I was just curious to know about our heroes about whom we don't know. We are all celebrating our 77th independence. And that's where I came to know. This is a fascinating book written by the ACP of Lucknow. He himself is a police officer, very curious. He does research, and that's how these are the stories that he finds and brings out. Okay, how many of you know him? How many of you know Akshay Kumar? I'm sure if you're a fan of Akshay Kumar, you would know that he signed a movie called Gurkha, which was supposed to come a couple of months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, it was nothing but the life of this remarkable gentleman called General Ian Cardozo. General Ian Cardozo was the second-hand man to General Manekshaw in the 1971 war. But story is remarkable because at that young age in army, what he was trying to do to save the country and his people, and we are talking about leadership because that's one of the important subjects I guess you will have to continue with. 1971, he got a shrapnel in his leg, and there was a chance of gangrene. And also his team got involved into it. So rather than stopping his team, what he did with his own kukri, he was from the Gurkha regiment, he cut his own leg. Imagine. Now that's bravery, that's courage. But still, that's okay. It can happen. But what he did later on, these were the years of emergency in our country. Fiscal deficit was on the top. There was no expenditure to be done. And anyone in the army, if they have any disability, they cannot serve army. They become veterans. But he is that gentleman. He went back to the government and he fought that I want to serve the army. So army said, okay, you can serve, but how will you serve with disability? He said, I am not disabled. With one leg, he started running, tracking, swimming, climbing, every marathons. And he became the first Indian officer to be in army despite being disabled. He is presently 88. He lives in Delhi. And his story doesn't stop here. He serves the society in the best possible way. So much so that after army, after retirement, he was the person in 1992 Kargil insurgency, because of which we are sitting with independence. 92 would have been very, very crucial to us because the CIA had the full power, USSR had gone, Cold War had gone. Kashmir was very important. He was the man who led it from the front with one leg. And then later on, after his retirement, he served on a committee for 9 years where he used to go at 9 a.m. every day and used to come back at home at 5 a.m. for 9 years. But that's not important. He did it without getting any pay. Every day, that's what he used to do. And there were other people who were getting paid, they never used to go. That's professionalism. That's what leadership is. That's what you will have to learn from others. I'm not talking about the books, but I'm talking about the person that you should learn as a book himself. And what happens when you pick up his books? You get stories like these. You get stories to inspire yourself, your countrymen, and the people that you work with. Okay? Bollywood everyone loves, I guess. But how many of you know her? कैटरीना कैफ होती तो ये सब बड़े खुश हो जाते हैं. But nonetheless, she is equally remarkable. Her name is Usha Khanna. कितने लोगों ने वो गाना सुना है, पल भर के लिए कोई हमें प्यार दे दे? It's a legendary, remarkable song, yeah. Usha Khanna, she is the third music director of India and the first female after independence. At a very young age, at 17, she started composing music against the legendary O.P. Nayyars of the world. I'm sure if you go back to Spotify, you search, you will find a lot of songs. But that's what Usha Nayyar did. Now, one of the very important ones, which for young ones like you, especially in college and with all the 14th Februaries of the world. Yeah. So next time somebody invites you for a tea, you can actually sing this song by Usha Khanna, but do remember Usha Khanna. The reason why I'm telling you, because there's so many unknowns that you just don't know. But Usha Khanna is legendary. We talk about feminism, we talk about the power of women in the corporate world or at workplace. Usha Khanna is remarkable. She was treated so badly. She was molested for one of her first studio recordings. because everyone thought, how can a woman create music? It's not her job. But what she did is remarkable. Even today, she is the only woman music director who created the best of the best music, and her name still comes after a lot of other directors, producers in the sequence of casting when it comes out on a movie. Why? Why so mistreatment? But again, how do I get these stories? I read books from all walks of life. I'm very curious about Bollywood, so I just thought, let me just read some interesting stories. If you're curious, you can actually pick up anything. Now, somebody of your age, how many of you are 21, 22 here? Couple of you. I never wanted to actually nearby, right? Almost of your similar age. But how many of you know him? How many of you belong to Noida or have been to Noida? Well, there is a very important marg there, Vijayant Marg, Amar Shahid Vijayant Marg. That's Amar Shahid Vijayant Thapar. He was 22 when he gave his life for the country. And you know what he did? Just before the day when he knew that tomorrow is the day that I will not survive, because they were facing the army in Kargil and there was not even a shrub to protect them, and the Pakistanis were there, they were here. They were still gallantly, they were there serving the country. And in that moment of his last um, hours, he wrote this letter which is called the last letter. You all should read it actually. This letter has nothing where Vijayant is demanding anything from anyone, but he is giving back to the society. So much so that in one of the counter-terrorist attacks, he saved a girl called Reshma. She was 5 years old. One of the terrorists had captured her. He saved that girl, and still that girl is being taken care by this family of Vijayant Thapar. Now, Vijayant Thapar is remarkable not only because of what he did, but he created a legend. And his father and his mother, Father Colonel Vijayant Thapar, again a 1971 war hero, again a remarkable person to meet. Now, why I'm saying it's not because of your age or so, but you are still in that process of knowing things. So, know the people who really matter to the country. They are the people who are change makers. You go and meet them, they have got a museum in their house in the name of Vijayant, where they just want to inspire. Colonel Thapar is 80-year-old, and if I tell him, sir, children from or students from this university want to meet you, even if he has temperature, even if he has problems, he will come. And that's what the life he lives. Same with his mother. One of the important stories I want to tell you is about this gentleman. How many of you know him? I usually ask, I just want to test. I'm sure nobody would know him. He's not on Instagram, he's not on YouTube, he's not an influencer. But how many of you know Mithali Raj? Fantastic. So this man on wheelchair is the person who wrote the first check to Mithali Raj and the team when Mithali Raj used to get 200 rupees per match against Virat Kohli, used to get 2 lakh rupees. That's it, only on the fees. Leave aside endorsements. But this man on the wheelchair, how could he afford it? Let me tell you the story. His name is Arvind Prabhu. How many of you from Bombay? Ville Parle? Anyone? Or Bombay per se? Couple of you. Ville Parle, you know? Parle station. There's a Thakre stadium there that he runs. It's a stadium where I met Tiger Shroff. He was trained on one side. On the other side, there were slum children getting trained. And that's where I met Arvind Prabhu. I was very curious who runs this beautiful facility with an Olympic-sized swimming pool, some of the gold medalists that they want to create. That's where I met Arvind Prabhu. And he was on a wheelchair. I was curious to know about him. 1980s, he was in Ramaiah College studying his medical studies. He was driving his car with his other 3 friends. He met an accident. All the 3 other students got saved. He got injured below his neck. For 6 hours, he was lying in the pool of blood and urine on a stretcher. Before his parents, who were doctors in Bombay, they came to Bangalore. And the mother said, operate him, whatever it is, whatever the chance is. He survived, but he survived with a complete paralysis below his neck. So he cannot move his neck beyond 30 or 35 degrees. That's it. He can speak, but he cannot lift his hand. He cannot do beyond this. But then the real story starts here. When he was on the table, when the doctor was operating, doctor said something very interesting to him. That, Arvind, it's your birthday today when you have met this accident. but it's also your new day. Actually, it was his birthday, 31st December. The same day when he met this accident, the same day he was getting operated, doctor said, it's your new life. Do something about it. And Arvind, while he was getting operated, he kept on thinking, what should I do, yeah? I'm to gone. There's nothing in my life anymore. Paralyzed for life. But then he came out, it took him 9 days. He was a badminton player. He was the state level badminton champion. It took him 9 days to come out of the depression. 9 days. हमारे साथ अगर छोटी भी चोट लग जाती है ना, हम 1 साल तक गाते हैं. पिछले बार ना मेरा एक्सीडेंट हो गया था. Right? That's what we do. 9 days he was out of it. He promised his parents, his father was also the mayor of Villeparle, but he promised his father and mother, I will be financially independent as soon as possible. This happened, and in 10 years' time, he bought his first car. That car was the top-end Mercedes model. And how he did this is remarkable. He just got an idea that India needs cable TV, and he created a business called City Cable. City Cable, many of you would know City Cable, yeah? Which was taken over by Z Business at a cash deal of 150 crores. But the story still doesn't stop here. That's it, he created. He now doesn't drive any Mercedes, he drives a simple Innova because he had to make a statement. But what he does now is remarkable. Pickleball? Pickleball? Do you guys play pickleball? Yeah? Is the fastest moving game in the world. Because during pandemic, everyone, including Bill and Melinda Gates, they also played and became a race. 84 countries, it will soon become part of the Olympics. It is Arvind Prabhu who's leading the federation globally. He is the man who's funding the entire pickleball association in India. He wants to create the first Olympic medal from India on pickleball. Mithali Raj. And last week when I was with him, he told me a very interesting story. He met a group of blind singers, musicians, and he wanted to support them. And he said, I will just not support you for one orchestra, one concert or two, but I'll support you for 100. So he gave them money for 100 and said, by the time you should be on your own. And the day when I met him, he very proudly said that, Mohit, this group of blind orchestra, they are playing in Chicago today, and they are being paid more than Yanni. Yanni, you would know Yanni, that famous singer. Musician. This blind orchestra was being paid more than Yanni, which is a remarkable feat for that entire thing. Now, why I'm telling you these stories because these are your real heroes. You will come across many of the influencers every day on your feed, but these are the people who may not be there. But the only way you can know about them is when you read, and as the formula says, Swadhyanam and Pravachanam. You read about them and you tell about them. Even if you create a reel, that's okay. But create the reel of these heroes. Read about them. There are so many subjects that you can read. Anyways, I got a chance to read about him in a fascinating book which we launched with Yuvraj Singh. And I tell you, on the stage, Yuvraj was inconsolable. He cried like a baby. He said, who calls me a hero? I'm no one. He said, I'm no one in front of people like Arvind Prabhu's or Palak Sharma's of the world. Remarkable people who are giving back to the society. But I asked Arvind Ji, what happens when somebody says that it's impossible? He says, मैं किसी भी ट्रक के पीछे माँ का आशीर्वाद जो होता है इसको याद रखता हूँ. So I always keep faith in whatever I do. That's what you all will have to do. You will face challenges, you will have problems, you will be sleepy most of the times, you will have tough lectures, but keep the faith, boss. You're on the right track. You are absolutely there. And point is, be a curious person. Jigyasu bane rahiye. Only then it will happen. Then you will never feel sleepy. Even if you sleep for 3 hours or 4 hours, you will still be attentive in whatever kind of lectures you are getting. And try to search. You have a beautiful library. I'm about to see that library. Search there. Go. Look for books. And also discuss amongst yourself. Make it a social activity. It's not a boring activity. It is boring only till the time you're not making it a social activity. Make it a social activity. Create buzz around it. Tell the world that it's not only the nerdy people who read. I've actually read the history of alcohol as well. So I can tell you why on Teacher's Day when you celebrate with a teacher's bottle, why it's important to celebrate it with a teacher's bottle as well. I was just curious. Old monk? Remarkable, yeah, remarkable. It's the patriotic drink of our country. Old monk. Huh? But who's that old monk on that bottle? Whose photo is that? It's Subhash Chandra Bose, Gumnami Baba. Fascinating, na? And you know who was the creator of the distillery that still makes Old Monk? General Dyer's father. I told it to General Cardozo a couple of days ago. He said, "Now I will never drink Old Monk. कुछ भी हो जाए." General Dyer के father की drink थी, मैं तो नहीं पीऊँगा. General Dyer is our number one enemy, na? So उसके father की distillery थी. But when you go into these questions, why General Dyer's father created a brewery in the country, why it became so famous, you get back into so many questions. So there are so many interesting things. I can even tell you that samosa is not Indian. How many of you know that samosa is not Indian? Are a lot of people know. Fantastic. But tell me, where did samosa come from? Huh? Why it is triangular? कोई बच्चा पूछ ही ले आप समोसा खा रहे हैं, बच्चा पूछ ले, बच्चा पूछ सकता है ना. They are very curious. फिर अब if a child asks you a question, भैया why is a samosa triangular? I'm like, बेवकूफ. What kind of questions do you ask? This happens with our classrooms as well. But why not? Tell me, why do you think a samosa is triangular? I'll give you a lesson on geopolitics and brand making in a samosa is a triangular. Tell me why. Any guess? You said Persia, nearby, the Middle East, Turkey per se, Egypt per se. But why triangular? Pyramids. What else? Imagine, उन जमानों में किसी ने pyramids बना दिए, those big. They became the icons of faith. They became the icons of changing your narrative. And that's why large buildings, large structures are created. But why Middle East per se? Because Middle East had nothing else other than gold and some of these reserves. So what they used to do is, for 5 kernels of black pepper, they used to give almost 30 to 40 grams of gold. That's why India has so much gold. Have you heard about gold mines in South India? How many? कितनी gold mines हैं? एक ही है बॉस, वो भी 18th century में आई है. लेकिन गोल्ड तो इंडिया में उससे पहले से है. How come? That's where the naval trade system comes into picture. Now coming back to the story of why samosa is triangular. So the next time you eat it in the canteen, you have a great story. Samosa is actually inspired by the pyramids. That's why the shape is triangular. It was called sambusak in the Arabic life. It was called sambusak because that's the only special dish they were allowed with black pepper and other spices which they were devoid of, for which they used to trade with India. That's why sambusak became a very important dish. It was a god kind of dish served with any other regular meal. That's how the samosa came into the world. So if you're curious, you will find so many such interesting things. You talk about robotics. Do you know what is the future of technology? Where are we heading? What is the biggest thing that we have to solve on the planet with technology? So what is technology? Big data, AI, what is that? You create more data, correct? You have surplus data. Everyone is creating some reel, some video. But what will happen? Where is this data getting captured? You guys are techies, you may know. Where do you capture this data? Servers. Where are those servers? Cloud. कहीं तो स्टोर होता होगा ना, कोई तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर तो चाहिए ना क्लाउड के लिए भी. कहाँ है डेटा सेंटर्स? हाँ? Where else? Where do you think Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, their data is captured? Different locations? That's what I'm asking. Exactly where? Go search more about it. Read some of the very important books like We Are Products, Where Will Man Take Us? Some of the most remarkable books that will actually tell the future of storage as well. In fact, there's a fascinating book written by one of the old Oracle guys. He has written Tech Proof Me, which says the future lies in the DNA storage. Because soon you will exhaust the energy to store the data as well, which is now being put inside under the seabeds, the Arctic beds, which is destroying your flora and fauna. So you would need a DNA structuring very soon to capture the data, which is almost 84,000 times more than what a gigabyte can actually store. So that's the future. I am not a techie, I don't understand, but at least I got this information because I was curious and I read some of the books around it. So that's my suggestion. I think I've slightly exhausted my time. Sorry for that, though I had prepared exactly for 60 minutes. But my only suggestion is do read, be curious. It's not a boring thing. The most fun activity that once you start doing it. If you have any questions, we can take some questions. I'm very curious to hear from what you, as curious minds, think.
Yeah, we can take questions, and also whoever is asking question, please start by telling your name. Anyone?
Yes. कितने लोगों ने गाना सुना है वेक अप सिड?
Hello, sir. My name is Abhay. Sir, at first you told reading books was not your cup of tea. So, how did you build that habit gradually? Matlab, how should we start building it?
I think, yeah, this is important. No, I used to read books, but I only used to read them to show off, right? But then I got curious and I picked up subjects. And once you know if you are curious about a subject, if you are interested in a subject, then the sky's the limit. So only on geography in my library, my personal library, I have full rack full. Alcohol, I have close to 16 books. I'm a teetotaler, by the way, like Johnny Walker. How many of you know Johnny Walker was a teetotaler? Johnny was a teetotaler. That's why he can say keep walking, right? Because he's the only person who knows who's walking, who's falling, right? So I have almost 17 or 18 books and I keep collecting. Only on Sanskrit I would have nothing less than 25, 30 books, including Sampaji's book that I read the first, which is, what is Sampaji's book? The Wonder That Is Sanskrit. It's the most remarkable book on the wonders of Sanskrit. So much that there is a shloka that is mentioned which is only da 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 da. That's it. But still it means something. So if you are interested, you'll pick up. And then my way of reading is I make notes. And some of the books on which I write, I don't give it to them. They are my treasures. Even if somebody asks for them, they pay me, I will not give them. So, and then socialize around it. I have friends with whom I discuss. I have banking friends with whom I discuss the ascent of money, the history of money. I have friends who are climate enthusiasts. I discuss books related to climate with them. And then I've created a complete community with Frob in a couple of countries now, or chapters per se. So we meet a lot of curious people, students like you. They refer some interesting books. They recommend some interesting books. That's what we do. I'm getting paid now for reading. I don't mind that. And that's an important part, right? I hope it answers. Yeah. And start with small. No need to. So Chetan Bhagat was a great book that I picked up. One Night at Call Center. बहुत ही कमाल की किताब थी. And then 5 Point Someone. Just after college, it was a great read. So don't mind reading anything, यार. मतलब anything. College days हैं यार, कुछ भी पढ़ो. But just build up that habit. At least have one page before you sleep. You will sleep better that way. Yeah. Anything else? Yes,
Hello, sir. Myself, Gangadhar Yadav. My question is that how we can extract a lot information from book. Like we always get forget all the things that we read from book after 1 to 2 weeks. So how we get value from that book?
देखो अगर इसका आंसर मेरे पास बचपन से होता तो मैं टॉप करता, है ना, क्लास के बाहर नहीं होता. बट सिंपल इज स्वाध्ययन प्रवचनम.
What does it mean?
दिस मीन्स स्वाध्ययन, खुद से अध्ययन करो जिस पे तुम्हें इंटरेस्ट हो, और उसके बाद उसका प्रवचन करो, उसको बताओ लोगों को, कहानी सुनाओ. ये जैसे ये कहानियाँ मैंने सुनी मुझे याद हो गई, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट हैपेंस इफ यू आर रीडिंग समथिंग फैसिनेटिंग दैट ब्लोज ऑफ योर माइंड, टेल इट टू द वर्ल्ड. मेक अ रील अराउंड इट यार. नाउ तो टेक्नोलॉजी इज सो ग्रेट एंड दैट्स व्हाट द कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स डू, राइट? यही तो होता है ना. मैं नहीं हूँ इंस्टाग्राम पे, बट एटलीस्ट इतना तो मुझे पता ही है, यही करते हैं ना लोग. आइए मैं आपको लेके चलता हूँ शहर की सबसे बड़ी आइसक्रीम की दुकान पे, है ना. कहाँ से मिलती है यार? कहीं तो कुछ होगा ही ना, कंटेंट तो बनता ही है ना. बट व्हाट हैपेंस, लॉट ऑफ पीपल आस्क मी, सर हम वीडियो देख लेंगे, किताब क्यों पढ़ें, वीडियो कितना आसान है. अगेन डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग इज़ ए वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट ग्लोबली नाउ. डिज़ाइन थिंकिंग इज़ नथिंग, जो कि चाणक्य कहते थे, आन्वेक्षिकी. सिंपल बेसिक थिंकिंग है. अगर आपको वीडियो से कुछ समझ में आता है तो ऐसा क्यों है कि चाइना ने, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू नो दैट चाइना एक्चुअली बैंड यूजेज ऑफ वीडियोज़ ऑन फोन्स below 18 years of age. They have restricted it to 2 years. It was in the news. Now you have to ask a question, why? The answer lies with Gloria Mark, who was the first scientist recruited by Bill Gates way back in year 2000 to study the impact of digital on the humans as an interface. And very recently she published her report, which is a remarkable report on our attention. Now in that report, if you go, she's made a book as well, and then I had a good long chat with her. If you go, why videos are not so great thing for your brain, because every brain has a brain budget, cognitive budget कहते हैं उसको in psychology. Now what happens, जब movies पहले बनना शुरू हुई थी तो technology was very low. हर movie में एक shot होता है, right? How many of you know what is a shot? Shot is when the scene is not changing, right? That's a basic shot. That's how the direction happens, script writing happens. Short. जब मूवीज़ बनना शुरू हुई थी 1930s में, जब ये कॉन्सेप्ट आना चालू हुआ था, तो एक शॉट का एवरेज टाइम होता था 30 to 35 seconds. Guess what is the time now? What is the average time of a shot now? जो इंस्टाग्राम पे बढ़िया फॉलोअरशिप है ना जिनकी, वो जानते होंगे. इंस्टाग्राम टीचेज यू बिग टाइम. इट्स 1.5 seconds now. Sorry? 10 to 1 is very high now. Go to Transformers, it's 1.5. Transformer movie is actually 1.5 seconds. Every minute, cut. It's changing. And that's the reason why when you watch a James Bond movie, the present James Bond movie, you don't feel fresh when you come out. Your brain is exhausted. Now imagine you all are grown-ups. A child, 6-year-old child, watching a video, tack. The cognitive budget is going very fast and they don't even have an idea that the budget is going out and they're getting exhausted. They have nothing left per se. So that's a very important reason why you should read, and scientifically it has been proved. If you read even 10 pages a day or at least 10 minutes a day, your stress levels will come down by almost 80%. And that's a fact because you imagine your brain works creatively. So that's why I think it's important. Yeah, sir.
Hi, sir. My name is Aditya Raj Sharma. I want to ask, as you said, you read 16 books on alcohol. Sir, according to you, there is any best use case of alcohol in the environment?
तो मैं ना थोड़ा, नहीं, बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. और देखो, दिस इज व्हाट क्यूरियोसिटी डज टू यू. सो गो टू वेदास, पिक अप सोमरस, दैन सी, एंड दैट्स वेयर एंथ्रोपोलॉजी विल कम इनटू पिक्चर. बैठो इत्मीनान से, बैठो, चीयर्स फॉर दिस. या, so go back into the world of anthropology. Apes, from where we have come, right? अगर आज भी आप किसी जू में या कभी किसी एप को ध्यान से बैठ के देखो तो वो क्या कर रहा होता है, वो एक ट्री में से सैप निकाल रहा होता है. वो लीफ को ऐसे मोड़ते हैं और उससे सैप को सक करते हैं. यू नो व्हाई दे डू इट? It contains almost 3% of alcohol. So dopamine is always required by our ancestors as well as an evolutionary process. So much so that Neanderthals 40,000 years ago, the traces of alcohol was found in them. This is science, as simple as that. Even today, so you know how agriculture started, which says it changed the world, humanity? Agriculture was never started to eat. It was always meant to preserve alcohol. Because that's the first human requirement. That's a good use case, correct? So you have a chance to drink, but drink responsibility, मेरे भाई. है ना? मतलब ये नहीं यार 4 बोतल वोदका काम मेरा रोज का. वो मत करना. So why I'm telling you, despite being अच्छा, I was never a teetotaler. College days, I was also somebody. 4 बोतल वोदका. But it was 4th of July 2004, I left. So I only became a teetotaler after that. But yes, and I never drank responsibly, so I had some issues with that. So, but yes, this is a good use case. Enjoy, huh? At least now, every time you see a wine bottle, every time you see a beer bottle, you will know what's written on the label. And just by reading that label, you can actually tell everything about what happened in the world. So much so that India lost to East India. The first license was given because of liquor. You want to hear that story? जहांगीर की फ़ोटो देखी किसी ने? जहांगीर हाथ में ग्लास लिए रहता है. उससे पहले किसी मुगल राजा के हाथ में ग्लास नहीं होता था. So Jahangir always loved his drinks, and that's where one of the missionaries that was sent to the country to get the license for Surat for an indigo factory, he realized Jahangir loves drinking and he shared a drink with him. And that's how Jahangir said, wow, he's my true friend. I don't mind giving him a license for the Surat factory. And that's how East India Company came to the country. So every time you read any label, just ask questions. संपत जी ने बताया होगा ना, काखा गागा काई पहले क्यों आता है? Because that's how the questions are made. Curiosity, there's a first set of thing. If you don't ask questions, nothing will happen. Ask questions to yourself, find answers as well. That's very important. So there are great use cases in everything that you do. Yeah? Anyone else? Or we can. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
This will be the last question.
Sure.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ritika, and I wanted to ask that when you read those books, when you read many books in your life, I'm also a reader, so I love reading books. Was there any moment when you realized, like the book that you once read is depicting, like you are in the situation, in a similar situation, you felt the book happening right in front of you?
Okay, that's a totally new one, and tough one as well, I must say. So it happens almost every time because if you read with so much immersion, you feel like. So presently, I'm reading the history of cancer because as a part of my other work, I'm a social venture capitalist where we are funding hospitals. So I'm deeply into cancer, how it started, what is happening, what is the root cause, what are the challenges. So when you read with such immersion, it happens. And there are two, three different kind of books or reading that I do. One is a book which I take at least say a month or two or three. These are research books like History of Cancer. It's been almost a month. I'm only one third in this book. But possibly a same size book which is a novel, I can finish it in say 5-6 hours because now I have this. I know what to skip. जैसे वो OTT होता है ना, OTT में मैंने सीख लिया जैसे ही म्यूजिक आए ना जैसे ही बढ़ा दो 30 सेकंड बढ़ा दो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. सो इवन इफ यू स्किप कपल ऑफ वो बीच में ना दो चार एपिसोड छोड़ दिए कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. दैट्स हाउ यू डू बिंज रीडिंग एज वेल. द थर्ड सेट ऑफ books are where I make my notes, keep them preserved, but still I'm reading them fast. So it happens very often that while you read it with such immersion, it happens. You realize, oh, this could be me. I never understood this. And this happens. So for example, बैठ जाइए मैं आपको एक बहुत ये we'll end this with a story. Way back in my corporate days, just after my marriage, and that's what happens when you have a good friend as your partner. She gifted me a good book. I thought, why is she giving me a book called The Professional? I'm decently professional, boss. But then at least because it was gifted by my wife, I read this. This is a book written by Subrat Bagchi. Anyone from the technology side would know Subrat Bagchi, Mindtree. And now the Odisha Skill Council CEO. He's one of the biggest philanthropists in the country as well, without their name coming anywhere. So I read this book. This book starts with a powerful story which every one of you should know. It's a real story. It's a story of Mahadev. Now, who was Mahadev? Mahadev was a 6-year-old boy who came to Bangalore with his mother. Mother used to do these regular cleaning work, maid work. One day, Mahadev was playing in the streets and somebody said, Mahadev, tum yahan baithe ho? You are here. Your mother is admitted into the hospital. Mahadev, 6-year-old boy, he can't relate anything to it. He went to the hospital. He saw his mother in a government hospital lying on a bed, coughing very, very bad and in a very distressful situation. Mahadev had no idea what's happening. He was playing outside the hospital. क्या करेगा उस बच्चे को तो कुछ पता नहीं है बाहर खेल रहा था. Somebody said, Mahadev, your mother is no more. She's dead. And imagine a 6-7-year-old boy, how would he relate to what death is? But he kept on sitting next to dead body of his mother. The municipal corporation came, picked up the book. There was the body. Nobody was there to claim for that body. But Mahadev's life kept on going. He became a छोटू in that hospital. होता है ना भाई बच्चा घूम रहा है तो किसी ने सहानुभूति में सिंपैथी में छोटू ये कर दे छोटू वो कर दे छोटू डू दिस फॉर मी महादेव ये कर दो महादेव वो कर दो. But by the time Mahadev turned 12, some senses came and he realized there are so many such unclaimed bodies that came to this hospital that needs to be served or serviced for their last rites. That was 12-year-old Mahadev. By the time he turned 60, he did this last rites as rituals, irrespective of the religion, to 40,000 plus bodies across Karnataka. So much so that Ratan Tata actually flew to Bangalore only to shake hands with Mahadev. Now that's professionalism. Now my question to you, was he well educated like you? No. Do you think he got a chance to be in the best of the best colleges or the privilege that you all have? Yeah. But do you think he was a professional? Why? Because Mahadev performed the duties that he took over. Now, you have to define what is your duty. You have all the rights to be in the best college. Your parents are giving the fees. You're getting the best food, best environment. Everything is great. So you have to define your duty, and somebody who knows what his or her duty is, that's a professional. And that's what you have to make it as a habit as well. I'll close with this last story on habit. How many of you know Michael Jordan, especially with the movie Air coming? I'm sure everyone would know, right? Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan is a man of his habits. So much so that he went to a college. Like होता है ना जो लोगों को बुलाते हैं कॉलेज में बुलाते हैं सर आइए माइकल जॉर्डन सर हमारे स्कूल आइए. He went to a school. He met a lot of school children. He asked the same question, what do you want to be? So everyone, to impress Michael Jordan, said, sir, I want to be Michael Jordan. So they were close to 100 like you all are here. Everyone raised their hand, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, if you know, he's the highest endorser in the world. Highest. For on an average, 60 seconds that he deploy on ads, he gets almost $1 million. That's highest ever in the world. That's Michael Jordan. So everyone wants to be Michael Jordan. 60 seconds में $1 million life बन गई boss और क्या चाहिए, right? Spend some time. Michael Jordan asked this question, but he asked again, okay, out of 100 of you, how many of you can get up at 5 a.m. every day? 5 a.m. every day. No, I'm not asking you. I'm just telling what Michael Jordan did. But still, good to see some people can wake up at 5 a.m. every day for one complete month. Go to the basketball court and throw the basket for 800 times. How many of you played basketball here? It's a tough game, right? 800 baskets. 5 a.m. for 1 month. Out of 100, almost 50-60% hands came down. Sir, Sunday भी होता है बीच में. कभी birthday party होती है. I can't do this. Not possible. Michael Jordan asks the question again. How many of you can get up at 5 a.m. every day, go to the basketball court, and throw the ball 800 times for one complete year without break? There were 10 hands remaining. They were still very enthusiastic. Oh my goodness. Michael Jordan बनना है 60 सेकंड में $1 million कमाना, इतना तो बनता है boss. Hands came down. Now Michael Jordan gave the best shot now. He asked, how many of you can get up at 5 a.m. every day, go to the basketball court, throw the basket 800 times for 16 years without break? There was only one hand that remained. Michael Jordan actually signed. That boy is part of NBA now. That's what Michael Jordan is. 16 years without break. And if you don't make your habits and do things responsibly, if 4 bottle vodka is your responsibility, then you're gone, boss. You'll never become Michael Jordan. That's Michael Jordan. And I tell you a very simple example of how Michael Jordan displays it. He was signed for an energy drink. The director said, sir, the ad is very simple. You come to the court, tuck, 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 throw the ball will not go. You come back, you drink our energy drink, tuck, 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 the ball will go. We will say, our drink helps Michael Jordan as well. Michael, cool, yeah, 30 seconds and $1 million, I don't mind. He went to the court, shot everything, lights, camera, action, tuck, 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 ball chali gayi. Sir, you didn't get me. It cannot happen. Tuck, 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 ball will not go. Cool, let me give it a try. He did for 45 times. Ball went again and again. Sab karke dekh liya. That's habit. That's exactly what habit is. What are you made up of? You will always be made up of your habits. Nothing else. Reading is a habit. Everything else becomes a part of habit. But you have to do it with. And on habit, if you understand what is habit, habit में से H हटा दो, क्या बचता है? A bit of it. A हटा दो, उसमें से क्या बचता है? Bit of it. D हटा दो, क्या बचता है? It still remains. अगर I हटा दो, क्या बचता है? T. So for everyone who wants to wake up always, tea is the habit. Yeah, so enjoy it, drink it responsibly as well, but make habits your great friends, nothing else. That's what I want to tell you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.